Good evening, everyone. I got a request to go over the Hero versus Polt game at IEM Katowice on Daedalus Point, where Hero does a 2-base Colossi all-in, and that kind of gave me an idea of making a video about how to deal with Colossi in general and what your play should be when you're playing versus Colossi. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, let's jump into the game here. As you can see, Polt, he's doing his oh so lovely, very standard Reaper expand into 3 racks build. This SCV scouting at 15, it's scouted over here for proxy 10 gate. Now it's going to scout and it's going to be able to catch a Zealot, and it's also going to be able to see if there's like a fast chrono pressure coming or anything, if you need a bunker or not. But he sees the Nexus, so everything's gonna be just fine. So a little bit about Colossi. Colossi and like Blink Stalkers, they're like the most primitive Deathball army that the Protoss has ever had. They've been here since Wings of Liberty, and not really much has changed about them. So they're pretty well figured out, and once you know what to do against them, they shouldn't cause so much troubles anymore, because they're like, if you know they're going Blink Colossi, you should have a certain reaction in mind. It's usually adding a second starport after you get 5 barracks up, and then just making 3 Vikings at a time, and then doing a big timing attack. And you can either bring SCVs with that, or you can just try to snipe some units off. Do a drop when you're doing the timing attack. There's a lot of different things you can do against it. Oh yeah, so sorry about that. Polt here, he has all of his stuff, his oracles, or his anti-oracle defense in his main base, because he hasn't seen what Hero is doing yet. And he has these units just chilling here. He has the missile turret going up. He saved the scan until the missile turret was up and then dropped the mule. He still has 1 scan saved just in case it's a DT drop. So he's preparing against everything. And what we see Polt doing in this game is he's getting a really fast combat shield. And what he's done is he's delayed his factory. His factory has now gone up a little after 8 minutes, but he has produced a really big army, a relatively large army. So this kind of an attack, it's a 3 racks big bio attack with stim and combat shields. It's designed to hit at about 9 minutes, and you're basically able to do a lot of damage because you've pumped out a very large army. And it's really great on maps such as these, where you can't just force field the ramp off and be safe. Like on a map like Habitation Station, you only need 2 force fields to wall off your natural, and then you're safe against this. But on a bigger map like Daedalus, Polt is able to just walk up the ramp and start dealing some damage here. Now, he had a really good chance to deal some game-ending damage here, because there were only 2 immortals out, but he kind of, like, he got some probes and Hero pulled them back, so that was good by Polt. And then now he's starting to attack the units. And what he does is he starts to attack this Nexus before, like, attacking some other units. And now he's, like, caught in a time warp as well. He's still doing a decent amount of damage, but he keeps attacking this Nexus. It was a really bad, indecisive move by Polt to attack that Nexus, because he's taken off, 624 hit points worth of damage onto that Nexus, which is just going to heal up. This Sentry has a total of 80 HP. This Immortal has 300. So getting like 624 damage onto the Nexus could have been 2 Immortals, it could have been a Sentry, a Stalker, an Immortal, it could have been the 2 Immortal, or it could have just been a larger portion of the army. But Polt unfortunately tried to take down the Nexus, and it was a gambit that wasn't able to pay off. Like, the shields are down on that Immortal too. he could have easily cleaned up the rest of this army. And as a result of these two immortals living through that push, it's going to make Hero's army a lot stronger. And I think Polt is really underestimating the power of immortals in this game. And now his starport is just starting. Normally it would just be finishing if he didn't do that stim combat shield attack. So he's really delaying his first two medevacs by like at least a full minute. And as we can see here, Polt saw that there was a Colossi. It popped out during the battle, and he immediately throws down a starport. Now, you might be asking, like, what if he is going for a just like one Colossi build into Templar, or what if he is doing a just like maybe like two Colossi, and then he gets Templar really quickly? And what if you're worried about overmaking Vikings? Well, that's a very valid fear, and one of the ways that you can get rid of that fear is by being very active on the map. And we see Polt doing this already. He has a Marine at the watchtowers. He has a Marine going to each possible third base location. So he knows exactly when Hero is going to be expanding to his third base. Well, not anymore, but he did for a little bit. He should have like repositioned it maybe like farther off. So he knows like when Hero's going to be taking his third base, and that's really when you like as a Protoss player are able to transition out of the Colossi tech into the Templar and really like get a large army, because if you try to transition into Templar from Colossi off of two bases, you're not going to have enough gas to be able to create a really scary army. Like, you're going to have to be cutting sentries, stalkers, and immortals to be able to get those Templar out, and it's simply not worth it, because a really good concave, like if you're coming in from multiple angles in a fight, and I have some replays of that later, then you'll just be able to wipe the army out, because there won't be enough splash damage to clean up the flanks fast enough for the Protoss player on a two-base economy. Alright, so Polt here, he usually as in a normal build as a Terran player, if you don't do the combat shield stim attack, you have the two medevacs out faster, and you usually make 4 to 6 medevacs. Polt, he is making his first 2, and then he's making another 2. So you don't immediately need to start into Viking production per se, because you need the medevacs to keep the bio alive, and up to a certain amount of Colossi, I would say about 2 to 3, if you have a large enough bioforce and you come in at enough angles, you can effectively fight off 2 to 3 Colossi count, depending on how big the Protoss army is, with just bio units with medevacs. So you don't even need Vikings against this kind of attack that is coming in for Polt. Unfortunately, these units are caught really far out of position, and this is a very scary attack coming in, and it doesn't even have to be all in for Hero. Well, just as I say that, I'm checking his upgrades, and he's actually making it an all in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. He has 8 gateways, he has no forge, and he has blink, and he has extended thermal lance. So this is very all in by Hero. And Polt, unfortunately, he didn't put himself in a very good position, because he did that stim attack earlier on. And in order for this to pay off, you either have to kill the Nexus, which is basically a game ender, kill a bunch of probes so that his army won't be as big later on, or kill the army off so that, once again, his army won't be very big later on. Because if you're not able to do good damage to either the army or the economy of the Protoss player with this attack, then it's not worth it, and you end up falling behind. Even though the supplies will be relatively even, the amount of units that you traded for and that you invested into, like all that time, is now just kind of wasted. And the Protoss player, like if he was able to kill those 2 immortals and the sentry, then it would have been very worth it, and he would have been very far away or far ahead, even though he traded the armies, but he didn't. So now he's he's not in an unwinnable position. He's just behind, and he's getting his 5 Raxes, and he's gonna take his command center. So he's playing like a pretty standard game still, and even with these 5 Raxes worth of production, he's gonna be able to have enough units to pump out and to be able to kind of like defend successfully against what Hero's gonna be doing. And also, like, if you should be clicking on the units to see what kind of upgrades they have. A big tell if they're gonna go into like Templar tech is if they research armor upgrades, and if they get attack upgrades, then it's more likely going to be a Blink Colossi build, because Colossi benefit a lot more from the attack upgrade, and charge lots obviously want to be a lot more tankier, so you get the armor upgrade for them. And if there's 0 upgrades this late into the game, then obviously it's going to be a 2-base all-in, because Hero is not investing into the late game and he wants to end it right now. So always taking a look at the upgrades around now, like you'll either see like +1/1 or just +1 and then 0/0 in either attack or the armor upgrade, or you'll see either no upgrades period, you'll see double upgrades, so that means he has a double forge, and a lot of his money is invested into 2 forges worth of tech and upgrades, or you'll just see 1 forge and it'll either be going into attack or going into armor at this stage of the game. And if if Polt clicked on it, he would have seen that it was 0/0/0, so he knows that if he can clean up this army cost efficiently, then he's going to win the game. Now, unfortunately, Polt is going straight into this army. Yeah, he needs to get away from that. The way Polt deals with this isn't quite the best. So he has some units here prepared for a flank. That's good. He has a little bit more units over here. He lost a significant amount of units. Like, if he was able to trade all those units earlier on, and there was like 2 less immortals and 1 less sanctuary, so 4 sentries and 3 colossi and 5 stalkers, and there weren't those 2 immortals, then he wouldn't have been this wouldn't have been nearly as scary. But since Polt lost a significant portion of his army and Hero didn't, this attack is extremely scary for Polt. And he's making Vikings immediately. At this point, it's necessary to make the Vikings because the medevacs won't be out fast enough. Like, if he did a regular timing, then he would have had 2 medevacs by 10:30, and then he would have had 2 more by, it takes 42 seconds, so he would have had 2 more by like 11:02, 11:12, and then he would have had another 2 right now. So he'd have like a total of 6 medevacs worth of units, assuming he didn't lose any or he lost various small amount, and he would have 5 barracks worth of army plus 6 medevacs. So in this situation, or in that kind of a situation where you have 6 medevacs and 5 barracks worth of units and you haven't lost a significant portion, you can get a good surround on this, make him use up all his force fields to like block off a little bit, and then use like one of the flanks. Like, let's say you attack with this army and he force fields it off here, and then you go in with this army and he has no more force fields left, then or he doesn't have enough to wall off your army, then you can go in and start picking at the colossi and just like focus fire them down. But as we can see here, Polt is kind of in a pickle. He really needs to... Okay, so he's going in from all sides now, and like, even though he isn't in the greatest position, this battle still goes kind of well. Hero did a great job of targeting down all of the units instead of the SCVs, and then these force fields, Polt didn't dodge them. Like, he should have moved back and then gone over here, because now Hero is out of force fields. Well, he has like 2 more left. 1, 2... Yeah, he has 2 more left, so he wouldn't have enough to like force field off this entire area and this area. But Polt just didn't have enough units, and as a result, he kind of just loses this game because his attack earlier on didn't pay off. So that was the specific game that one of the people from YouTube wanted me to go over. Let me just look up the comment who said it. shout out to Speedy Over, and he asked to see the CJ Hero versus Polk game, and like to go over 2-base Colossi all-ins, and that was like a pretty decent all-in because there were no upgrades, so that would have meant there were a lot more units, but Polt wasn't in the best position, so as a result, he kind of like, even though he set up a really good surround, which is 100% necessary when you're playing versus Colossi play, you want a big surround, whereas versus Templar play, you want your army to be clumped up in one big ball, and then kind of like have small units branching off and picking apart at the Templars and other units. But versus Colossi, you need to have a surround so that the thermal lances don't do maximum damage. So that's one of the things that differs when you're playing versus Colossi versus Templar play. The only other game I can think of with the 2-base all-in was MC versus Innovation at another IEM way back when on Yansu. It was a really crazy game though, and it wasn't necessarily, well, I guess it's a, excuse me, it wasn't like the best game either because that game went on a lot longer. They both kind of stabilized, but we're just gonna watch a small part of it because MC does do a 2-base Colossi all-in, and I have not played against enough of them on ladder. I don't think I've played against any 2-base Colossi all-ins on ladder. It's usually just a 2-base or like just Colossi on 2 bases where the opponent expands into sorry, I'm just looking for the game really quickly. But where the opponent just expands into a 3rd base and then transitions out. So it's more of like a macro game, and a couple more replays after this will be based on macro Colossi in general. There we go. Alright, so let's jump into the next game here. And MC does a similar tack that Hero did. He did a 2-base Blink Colossi all-in with 0/0 upgrades. And one of the reasons Innovation was able to win this game was because he was on 2/1 upgrades. And so he just basically had a significant upgrade advantage over MC. So in this game, we see another Reaper expand Innovation, scouting with the 15 SCV. Very, very normal play. Paul has done this, and in my replays, I'm going to do the same thing. So scouting timings are very, very similar. Innovation here is scouting for any proxy tech. Unfortunately, he's going to miss it. It's right here, actually. And this would have been a good game to do for my last VOD, because MC is doing a DT expand. So let's see. The Nexus isn't up yet, which is a very big tell that it's going to be a 1-base play, or that it's going to be a, like, he did see the probe there, so it could have been a very delayed expansion. And what we see here, the Reaper, it doesn't see anything. The Reaper, it did scout all the way over here and then all the way over here before actually looking inside MC's base. So if the Reaper goes straight from your main into the Protoss's main, it should see a 3rd pylon building like right now. But since the Reaper is going in at 6 minutes and 12 seconds, and it sees the 3rd pylon building now, he should know that something fishy is up. And he's even able to keep the Reaper alive. Yep, very good by Innovation. And even though like he doesn't see the DT, he is building his engineering bay. He is saving up scans, and turret is down, and then he also builds the supply depot so that the DTs can't sneak by out of range of the turret in the bunker and then go here and start being annoying. And he's actually saving up a lot of scans, but now he sees the expansion, so he shouldn't be too worried about any blink play or like a void ray play. kind of like saving his scans a lot, actually. I only think you need like 1 to 2 scans. He's already has 3 scans and he's going up to 4. Okay, so there we go. He throws down a couple meals. And so by the time MC sends his DT, Innovation's already safe against it. And he already had the turret up in preparation for it, so even though it's proxied, it doesn't even matter. And one interesting thing, Innovation made the Widow Mine because he didn't know if it was blink play. So after he saw the command center, he knew that he didn't need to make any more Widow Mines. So he just has that one Widow Mine for now. That's why it's there. And now he's very fast third base off of 3 barracks. Usually if you get 5 barracks and then a third base, the expansion will start about 30 seconds sooner. And what that does is it just gives you more units so that you can either be aggressive or be more defensive against these 2 base all-in kind of plays. So like versus Colossi, they are a death ball army. They can't be split up and be useful, unlike small amounts of charge lots and high templar. They can be like split up into your main base and then into the third, like over here and then over here, and then like they can also like attack you while having defense back in the main. Colossi can't do that. They are only good in a death ball, and when they're with reinforced, or when they're reinforced by gateway units such as blink stalkers, sentries, and zealots. So as we can see here, Innovation, he has a marine over here. He should have a marine over here, but he does have a marine at the regular third base, and then he also has the 2 watchtowers as well when he's moving out. It's very important, and as we can see, like all over the map, his map vision has just lit up, so he sees everything on the map, and that's very important to see everything on the map, because if you see like the army moving out, you can start to set up a counter drop. So like you can hide 2 medevacs over in this area and wait until the Protoss army moves out, and then you can just bring in the medevacs, and you'll know that he doesn't have a third base because you should have marine spotters at the third base, so that the majority of his army is going to be all here, because he's going to be wanting to do a 2-base attack. And so like the double drop is going to be guaranteed to do a lot of damage and either force the Protoss army back, or at the very worst force in warp-in rounds that should be going towards the main army. Oh, Innovation. Yeah, he shouldn't have moved all those units away. Alright, so that marine here is going to be very, very... Alright, MC knows that Innovation should have the watchtowers, so that's why he has these blink stalkers out on the map, and he wants to deny these watchtowers. There's an observer right there, by the way. He wants to deny these watchtowers so that Innovation has the least possible time to prepare for this Colossi all-in that's coming in. There's the observer. See, with these watchtowers, or at least with these watchtowers, they're basically spotters. If there's a map without watchtowers, then just use marines and common attack paths and you'll be able to scout this coming. But Innovation is able to see this coming, and as a result he has a full at least half a minute to react to this big army coming. And like now would be the time, if you put 2 drops away here, to like send them in, because MC has no units at home. None. He literally all probes. And he like, you would have to use a warp-in round. He only has 1 Colossi coming in at a time, which can easily be sniped off excuse me, with 2 medevacs worth of units. So it would have been it's a great time to counterattack when the Protoss player is doing a 2-base all-in with Colossi. So Innovation, he now has the opportunity to set up a flank or anything he so chooses. He does not have a second starport because his build differentiates from the normal build. He already has double engineering bay researching, and he's getting really, really fast upgrades. It's basically the equivalent of a Protoss player who gets a double forge early on and then like chronos out double upgrades. That's why Innovation doesn't have a second starport, because he simply can't afford it. But he's going to have a big upgrade advantage, which ends up winning him this game. So even though MC is doing this really scary push. Innovation, unfortunately, he doesn't set up a flank, and he let MC get into this really good spot where force fields are going to be super useful. And like as we look at the sanctuary energy, there's a bunch of force fields available, and Innovation knows he's going to have to like hold off these, or he's going to have to like bait all these force fields and get rid of all of the sanctuary energy before he's able to attack, and that's what he's doing now. He should have really set up a flank here as well, though. And like, if he was able to attack before MC got into this really small choke, then he would have been able to do a much better job at cleaning it up. But he's losing a lot over here because MC was in a good position with his stalkers and colossi. And like, there's still no army over here. MC has his entire army balled up into one big death ball, and that's really one of the advantages of getting colossi is makes your death ball really strong. So now Innovation, he is kind of like posturing to try to get like a good surround off. Some more posturing, and now MC, I think he's out of force fields. He only has a couple left. He has 2 force fields left, and it's not enough to like he's able to like force field these units away, but these colossi, they're not target firing these units here, and Innovation's 2-1 just finished, so now he has a 2-1 upgrade advantage over the 0-0-0, so that's why Innovation decides to attack now, and that's the only reason why he's able to win at such a weird way, because like MC, he does have the bigger army. He has a lot more gas units in it. He has 3 colossi still up. Innovation just has 2 Vikings, one of which is almost dead. So really, if the upgrades were even, MC would win this easily. But because Innovation has the 3 upgrade advantage over the Protoss army, like his units just don't die to the Protoss player, and so he's able to just attack from one position and literally he's literally stronger than the Protoss player, and he's just able to like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Out bully him, out like strengthen him. Like if it's an arm wrestle, he's just able to flat out win because he's a lot stronger. So that's why I don't like this game as much, even though it is against the 2 base Blink Colossi all-in. Innovation's able to win through a more unusual playstyle because he does have the double upgrades. So but that replay was important to show you guys that counterattacks are a good option, because when a Protoss is doing a 2 base Blink Stalker Colossi all-in, they want their army in one big death ball, and like as we saw in the replay, there were no units left at home. So if Innovation used to counterattack with like 2 medevacs worth of units as the Protoss player was moving across the map, then he would catch the army out of position and he would force a recall, which allows him more time to build up an army, or he would either go for a base race and ultimately end up winning, because it's really hard to base race the Terran and win. Let's just put it at that. The Terran race is the best base race, or is the best base race in the game, fortunately for us. Alright, so this replay here is gonna kind of show you like the counterattacks being utilized. Polar Knight, to be fair, is a very Terran favored map. I don't think it's a very good Protoss map per se, unless you're doing like an all-in or something, because this this edge over here, all this dead airspace makes it really easy to do drops. So I'm just putting that out there right now, that it's kind of like a Terran favored map in this matchup, but the concepts still do apply. They just are able to work. You're able to like execute them easier on this kind of a map. So macro, scout. Didn't see anything. I see a forge or robo almost done, and since it's almost done, it tells me that like since it takes 65 seconds to build and it's like 90% done, it started at about 5:15. So I know that's it's normal timing. He's not proxying any tech. So because he has the robo, I'm going to be pushing out with these units. to force a photon overcharge. And fortunately for me, I was able to get that observer. And that's the first observer like that he was able to send out, so I'm completely keeping him in the dark. Even though he knows kind of what I'm doing already based on this poke out and the Reaper expand. But whenever you can kill observers, it's always good for you because it takes 30 seconds for an observer to build, and if you chrono it out, that's one chrono boost that doesn't go into Colossi or tech or gateways. So if you like see a robo facility at a normal time, you know that it's going to be observers, you should definitely save up a scan. That's what I did. Like, so I know it's observers, and sometimes, like, I've had it happen before where, like, I would walk across the map and I'd see an observer and then I kick myself in the head for not having a scan available. Like, scan is available here, and I just saw the observer. Or I'll put that in the normal view. See in slow motion. Alright, so I'm walking. I see the observer, I scan. Already this was completely worth it. And now I want to force a photon overcharge out, which I do, and then I back up. And that's all I accomplish, and that's all I needed to do. And this is a more normal timing. It's only with one tech lab, so I'm not doing a very big stim combat shield attack. As a result, my starport is going to be out very fast, and so are my medevacs. And this attack right here, I guess I should go over the game a little bit, just so it makes a bit of sense. I don't want to just rush the whole thing. Alright, so this attack here I do because I saw that he had a very few amount of gateway units. I was able to, like, I'm standing out right here because his observer is here and I see it. I'm just waiting until I have scan energy for it, which is going to be soon. So 51 scan, killed observer, and like I already know I killed one observer, so I can be a bit more aggressive and be out on the map because he has a lot less map vision. As we can see here, he is kind of really blind to what's going on in my base, and killing 2 observers in 9 minutes of the game is really good. Now I'm gonna just poke in. Like, I don't necessarily need to commit, but because he has no units here and he's building 2 cannons, I know that I can do a bit of damage. I snipe off that sentry, I snipe off that charge lot, and I get really fortunate and see a Colossi, and I can snipe that down. And if you're able to pick off 1 Colossi with your units early on before, like, and you should only do this when there's 1 Colossi. When there's 2, this doesn't work because your units just get shredded. But when there's 1, if he doesn't have enough sentries, like he didn't, he had 0 sentries, I picked one of them off, the only one off. That's the only way you're going to be able to snipe off Colossi if he has a low sentry count and if he only has 1 Colossi. Which both of the criteria were met. He had his first Colossi coming out and he lost 1 sentry, so he had 0 sentries. Cool. Now, like, I'm able to see his entire base, but it's not really a surprise at what I see. So now I know that it's Colossi tech, and I can adapt my play towards it. Macro, macro, macro. Getting barracks is 4 and 5 before I make my command center. And these drops, I'm just doing just to, like, poke in, look at his army composition. I see he has blinks, or he has a bunch of stalkers and sentries as his army. So I know that, like, these stalkers are going to end up being used as blink stalkers, and he does have Colossi tech. I already killed 1 Colossi, so that I already pretty much 100% know that it's going to be blink Colossi. So I really can, like, tailor my play towards the fact that I know that so early into the game, based on his unit composition. And now that I know that, I'm going to be, like, lighting up the map, taking the watchtowers, going to his 3rd bases, just to, like, check to make sure that I know when he's going to be taking his 3rd base, when he's going to be moving out. Like, I have all these spotter marines. They're very, very helpful because they're kind of like my observers. The Protoss player, he only has 1 observer because I killed the other 2. But generally, observers, like, are basically just like these. They act as vision. And now, like, I'm in a really good spot because I was able to kind of like delay this push because I was able to snipe off a couple of units. And now since I have my units here and here at possible third base locations, and I had some units over there, I know that he hasn't taken a third base yet. If he did, I would just use this force to cancel it. But I use this force to get ready for a doom drop as soon as he moves out. And I know when he's going to move out because I have both watchtowers. So, like, basically, I know he's moving out now. His army is out of position on the map. So now I go in, and if we look here in his main base, he has 0 units for defense at all. Literally only 2 cannons, and he has a bunch of probes, similar to MC's base in MC versus Innovation. And so, like, this is just a bunch of free damage, and if you can do damage and slow down his economy, it's going to make his army even smaller. And now he's, like, trying to go for a base race, but I can just go evacuate to the high ground, take this small little ramp, and he's not going to be able to go up into it because my Vikings are going to be able to deny his Colossi from abusing the ramp and doing a lot of damage, as we can see here. And as a result, he's not able to break into this at all. Like, he's trying his best as well. So now he's just going to be forced to recall home because he has no other options as well. So he goes back home. Nexus is... Oh my gosh. Did he just recall to no Nexus? Huh. Alright, so like we're going for a base race over here. And now, since he knows he can't do any damage here, he's gonna recall back. What? That Nexus died and then he just recalled back. That's so troll. Wow. Alright, but anyways, so like he's forced into a really bad position. He lost his main Nexus. He has no Nexus here and he's still recalling. I still have 2 command centers. I have plenty of SCVs. I was able to conserve my units by evacuating my main base and going into base trade situation and forcing him to go up this small little choke. And now like I'm able to just do a lot of either like I can pick off some Colossi or I can just like fly away for free. So like I've already done my damage, time to get out, and as a result he's just like now he has no economy whatsoever. And I have like my entire army still. He also has his army for the most part, but I was also able to save my entire army. And now this attack, it's not going to be able to do a lot of damage because I have slowed down his economy, and because of that he's not going to be able to reinforce his units at all. And so now all I have to do is win this fight and it's a game over. And if we look here, he has 3 Colossi and I only have 5 Vikings, but I'm able to, and like we're even supply too. Even worker count, even army supply. But the big difference is I have 8 medevacs to support all of my bio, and he has almost no gateway units. He has 15 zealots with no charge and 13 stalkers. So I'm able to win this fight against 3 Colossi by only having 4 Vikings because he doesn't have that big of a gateway army, because I was able to do a lot of economic damage and prevent him from mining anymore. So I use the SCVs to tank damage. When you pull SCVs in a fight, they're primarily used to tank damage, and you only want to pull them when you either are really desperate or you want to crush an army really well. So like you want to keep your units alive, and you'd rather trade SCVs instead of trading like the bio units. And that's what I'm doing here by pulling the SCVs. And so I'm able to just like clean up his army because I just had a much larger army than him, and I'm able to still reinforce as well because I'm still mining, and as a result he's forced to GG out. So the real big game ender, the real big game ender happened when, after I had the entire map lit up with all the spotter marines, I was able to do a big doom drop. I waited until I saw his army move across the map with my spotter marines, and then I went in, and just like we saw in the previous games, he had no defense in his main base, and that put him in a really awful position, and he wasn't able to attack into my main base and base trade, so he had to come back, and then he went back and tried to attack me again with his army, and it just didn't work out. And he was forced into a really bad spot because of the Doom Drop, doing damage by catching the Protoss army out of position, which you should see when the army passes the watchtowers or wherever your spotter marines are on the minimap. So yeah, it's a really strong way to play against Colossi, especially 2-base Colossi styles. If you're doing a 3-base Colossi style, then it's kind of like just a lot more. The Protoss player has his army defensively. It's kind of like a rain style where you're not going to be attacking with your big death ball. You're going to be using it defensively, and then he's going to have the blink stalkers in his main base, and then sentries, zealots, and colossi at his third base to protect that from going up. And so you can't really do any damage, and you basically transition out into a normal game. Don't be fooled. Like, if he takes a third base and he's not moving out, then don't try to attack into him, because blink stalkers plus observers are really, really good anti-drop defense. And if you do try to attack into a decent Protoss player who has his observers positioned where your medivacs can come, and then he has his blink stalkers in position as well, the blink stalkers prevent you from really retreating with your army, and you end up losing a lot of medivacs for basically free. Like, they die before like even half the units are able to get dropped out. It's pretty brutal. All right, so here's another game between the same players, and it's going to be another Blink Colossi game. We're just practicing right now. So like, I'm practicing against Blink Colossi, he's practicing against my bio. Even though the builds are going to be similar and we're both like, everything's just really similar, we're still practicing without making generalizations and assumptions, such as he's going to be doing the same thing every game. We do still scout for stuff. So like, sending my Reaper in, no scout, nothing, I haven't seen anything. So like, I don't like do blind, you don't want to do blind stuff in practice based on what your opponent did last game, even if you're playing the same person and he's doing the same exact thing, because that's not good practice. You want to like be looking for specific things. Like, I see a Twilight Council here instead of a Robo. Okay, so it's not exactly the same thing, but it transitions into a similar mid-game. This is just a different opening. Like, he's building a Robo here. But since I saw the Twilight Council, I'm going to be moving out with a Marauder and a bunch of Marines to do a counterattack against the Blink Stalker style. He has... all of these units are out of position. He wasn't planning on doing an attack because he only has 3 gateways. So it's kind of just bad on his part. But if he was planning on doing an attack, then his units would be out on the map getting ready, and like, there'd be a pylon over here, he'd be warping in units, then he'd go in here. So doing a counterattack at this time before Blink is done, and Blink cannot finish before 8 minutes. The earliest time it can finish is at 8 minutes into the game. So by attacking like right before 8 minutes, or right at 8 minutes when he wants to attack, you're gonna be able to catch him out of position and force the photon overcharge. I was able to kill some probes, so it was a pretty good deal. 5 probes for free basically. And now he's like transitioning out because he has his 3rd and 4th gas. So that Twilight Council was just to get a fast blink basically. He has like blink and 4 stalkers, so he's playing very defensively. So nothing to worry about here. And now I'm spreading out my units. Watchtower, this Marine is patrolling between the 2 possible 3rd bases, and I'm using this force just to be out on the map to scout for proxy pylons. I went through this whole pathway. I'm going through the blind spots of the watchtower, and I'm taking the watchtower. So I've basically scouted out this entire side of the map for proxy pylons. It's just something to do with your army instead of leaving it at your natural. And now I'm ready to kind of like push out. It's always good to put 1 Marine in front and kind of suicide him into the main base to like check for the unit composition. So like, I'm able to see 2 Colossi and a Sentry. So I know I have to back up because I can't snipe 2 Colossi worth of units, and he did have enough force field saved up to really split my army and make that engagement go a really bad way for me if I was to commit to it. So that's why I don't immediately commit, and then I also have to like run away because he does have the blink stalkers. I can't go into an engagement versus them at all. So sucky for me. I end up losing this army. And if we look at the Protoss's build, he is on 2 bases. He has double forge going. He did have double forge. Wait a minute. He doesn't have double forge. What was I seeing then? Oh, am I seeing stuff? Oh, okay. It was just extended thermal lance finishing up. Okay, never mind. He just has a single forge. So this is more of a macro kind of play when you have 1 forge. 2 forges is kind of cheesy. It cuts into the Protoss army because you're getting 2 sets of upgrades instead of just 1, and so it's twice as expensive. And then no upgrades means your army's going to be bigger, and he's going to be going for 2 base all in. Alright. So, this drop only does damage because it's a good map. Polar Knight is a good map to drop, and he's just very far out of position. He only has 2 observers, and they're not in the best spots. He should have an observer over here to scout for my to scout for possible drops coming, because like this map is a really good drop map. Or he should at least have units over here, but he was busy killing the rocks off to take a 3rd base over here, so his army was just out of position. So even though he made a mistake, we can still use that to our advantage and think of it in a positive way. Imagine if his army had, instead of like been over here, was actually just going over here. And I saw it with the watchtower, and the same thing happened again. So the moral of the story here is you should always try to catch the Colossi army out of position, because it is a slower army, and a Colossi player has to stay kind of bunched up if they want to move out. If they don't want to move out, then they have to split their army up into blink stalkers, which can shut down drops really easily. You don't want to drop into that. And sentries and Colossi, and like some more blink stalkers, or they're going to be moving out on 2 bases, and like when you see them come into this range, then you can just send a drop in, and since they want to be doing an attack, they're not going to leave any units at home, so it's going to have a higher likelihood to do damage. And if you're able to inflict some economic damage on the Protoss player before he's able to like get a big army up, that means his army is going to be going up a lot slower. Like his economy isn't able to support all of his gateway production and his upgrades that are researching, so he's going to be cutting either army to get the upgrades out, or the upgrades to get the equal amount of army up if he is behind economically. And as we see here, I'm just going for standard 2 starports. It's always important to get the 2nd starport against a Colossi player, and you don't want to lose your medevacs either, because if you lose your medevacs, that really puts a production minus onto your starports. So like let's say I lost like 2 medevacs in a drop, then I would only have 4, and not only can I not drop anymore, because if I lose those 2, then I'll only have 2, and they'll be basically useless in healing my big army up. I'm forced to either remake medevacs or Vikings. So if I lost the medevacs, then I have to remake them, and my Viking count wouldn't be as high. So it's very important to conserve your air units so that they don't get picked off, and you aren't gonna be like hampered with your production capabilities with your starports. Now, since I've been able to do damage, I can just out macro him from here. As you can see, I have a much larger army, and that's just because I was able to do damage early on. So this is what a game looks like if you're able to inflict some sort of early economic damage, such as picking off some units, doing some damage with some drops before blink stalkers come out, or catch a Protoss player out of position, which was what I did in this game. you're able to you can just play a macro game from here. You don't have to be any more aggressive, and you can just macro up until 200, 200, or until the time that the Protoss player will have about 4 Colossi, or they'll have 3 and they'll be transitioning into Storm, and then you can just kind of like attack into it. But here, my army wasn't all together. That was a big problem for me, and I also lost most of my Vikings. See, I'm set back to 2, which is not very good, and you can't really snipe off Colossi. Like, I was able to snipe off 1, but I lost entire bio armies. You can't really snipe it off when there's like a bunch of Colossi and when you're only attacking from one angle. If there's a bunch of Colossi, but I'm attacking from like this angle and this angle and this angle, so like from 3 sides, then it splits up the extended thermal lance beams and it makes them a lot less effective. But I do lose a lot of my air army here. I fought into the time warp. Cannot underestimate that time warp. It's like, even though I'm up a lot of supply, I have some units at home, which is not good, first of all. And second of all, so I only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Vikings. That's an alright number if you can get a good split off. So I should have attacked from this area and this area, but instead I attack in one direction, and we can see the results of that, attacking into one direction. It's just not very effective. And a bunch of my army gets force fielded off, and like, the worst possible thing you can do is lose your air units when he has a bunch of units that you need the air units for, such as Colossi, because then he's in a really good position, and the only way you can beat his army, essentially, like right now, this is just my fault for attacking in one area. Like, I should have split up. If I was able to like attack him from this area, I could have sent a group of army to snipe off these Colossi, and then this would have been a completely different story. But the Colossi were able to just do a huge amount of damage in this area and just shred my army to pieces before they even got a chance to do any damage. And then I end up kind of getting rid of a little bit of his army, but that was not a very cost-efficient army at all, or cost-effective trade at all. So now I'm pulling my SCVs because I want them to tank up the damage. I need to keep as many bio units alive as possible, and this kind of like saves my ass here. And I also had a really nice surround as well. So like, even though I was put in a really bad position, I made the conscious decision to pull my SCVs because I knew he was only on 2 bases. He hadn't taken his 3rd base yet, because I had a Marauder. I had a little force over here attacking earlier, so I knew that he didn't have a 3rd base up, and I did have a 3rd base up, so I had more economy than him, so I can sack 1 base worth of SCVs and still maintain an equal economy to the Protoss player, even if I lose all of those SCVs. So if we take a look at this battle, I still have a decent Viking count, but this time I'm able to get a much better spread out. See, this is like an open field battle, and it's basically the equivalent of fighting from multiple areas, because you can just get this is a really good concave that's coming off. See, it ends up being a good concave, and I'm also sending my SCVs out. I want to like let as many of them die as possible so I can keep these units alive and they can deal the DPS. And also, like, the stalkers, it messes up their AI. They can't just attack the Vikings. The SCVs get in the way. So it just keeps all of my bio units and my Vikings alive. And then I also bring units here, and like, so this is one of the beauties of doing flanks against a Colossi army. If we take a look here, he has 2 Colossi shooting lance beams over here, and then we have another one shooting over here. If there were 3 shooting over here, the units would die a lot faster, but because 33% of his splash damage is elsewhere, then it's not as focused and it doesn't do as much damage to this army over here by like being able to like kill Marines and SCVs and Marauders really, really fast before they get a chance to do any damage. And now I had a really good concave off there, and I'm able to pick off all of his Colossi and do a lot of damage. I still have my SCVs because they are still doing a good job of tanking damage, and I really was able to like crush that army as a result of that, of getting a really good engagement off. Because I attacked from multiple angles, I had SCVs tanking damage as well, and I also had a good concave off as well. So really everything went as well as it could have in the second fight compared to the first fight. That was kind of cool to see, like, one fight going completely awful because I only engaged straight up a ramp and all my units went in a line into his Colossi splash damage. The second engagement, my units were spread out in a concave so that his Colossi couldn't have shredded all of my units like they did in the first battle. And I also had a small 3 Marine flank that was kind of directing the splash damage into different areas and spreading it out and making it a lot less effective because it wasn't all concentrated in one area as well. And so I was able to win that engagement really handily. So the last game I want to show you guys is another kind of a more macro-oriented Colossi game. This player tries to transition into Templar. So it's not just a pure Blink Colossi play. It's kind of like Templar, but nothing really changes because you still have Colossi dealing a lot of damage. And by Colossi plays, I'm talking about getting Colossi and extended thermal lance. Some players will just get one or two Colossi, but they won't get extended thermal lance, and then they'll get a really quick charge and then tech into Templar. And if that happens, then you can simply just ignore the Colossi, and as long as you get a good concave off, then they won't be doing a lot of damage in a battle, and they'll be pretty much worthless. And so you don't need any Vikings against just 1 to 2 Colossi with no extended thermal lance. And you can make that read by seeing like a very fast charge and seeing no blink and seeing very few stalkers and seeing a lot of charge lots. Those are really big signs that the player isn't going to be doing a Blink Colossi style. And this video is only covering the Blink Colossi styles, kind of. Alright, so going back to the Terran player view, getting a scout off. I see a gateway. I don't see the Robo Bay, unfortunately, and my poor unit dies. He is playing kind of a bit weird, getting a second gateway and getting a Robo Bay. I think that's to be defensive against 1-1-1 plays, like very fast Widowmine drops or Hellion drops, so you have enough units to defend against that. But I still end up doing this push because since he has a gateway going down instead of, like, let's say a Stargate, he wouldn't be making a gateway if he was getting an Oracle. It's safe to do this push. So this push still works against Robo, and it works against Twilight plays. So it's kind of like, it's a really good, not risk, it's just a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it's kind of like a good risk that you can take because there's like there's no efficient build that gets a gateway and a Stargate at the same time like that. So you know that this is safe to do because you only want to do this when you know that there's no Stargate play in action. Because if there is, then you need to leave your units at home in the mineral line to defend. Alright, so we see he's getting extended thermal lance and Colossi. So it's going to be a macro Colossi play. I have one of the watchtowers. I should have taken more. I believe I do later on. I build a depot here to act as a spotter for warp prisms as well. It's just a little good thing to do on this map. And Marine going to the third bases. I see a bunch of Colossi, 2 Colossi. Too many sentries to run in and try to snipe him. Remember, you can only snipe Colossi if there's only 1 Colossi and not enough sentries to force field your army off. So like I see there's too many sentries, they can easily force field this area off, and there's 2 colossi. That's too much damage output for my units to try to snipe them off. So I'm just going to the third base, locations. I have them covered so I know when he's going to be taking them, and I get lucky, kill the observer, or very fortunate because his observer chose to fly in my vision when I was like dropping at the same time. So now this drop is like okay to do because he doesn't have blink yet, as we can see on the production tab, but he also has a lot of zealots, and he only has 4 stalkers. So even if they did have blink, they wouldn't have enough DPS to kill the medevac in one volley. Let's see, they do 14 damage to armor. This is armored as 1 armor, so each stalker does 13 damage. 13 times 3 times 4 is 52, so they do 52 damage per volley. They have 000 upgrades. They do 52 damage per round of shots, so it would take 3 rounds to kill a medevac at this point. So even if they did blink and try to kill me, it would take 3 rounds, and by the time that like they got to the 3rd round, I would just be able to boost out like this, and I'd be relatively safe. And then I'd also know that he'd have blink as well. So right now I have both 3rd locations safe. I see that this has been cleared out, so he's most likely going to be taking a 3rd base over there. And I also, like this depot, also saw the warp prism, kind of like an added bonus. And if you see a warp prism, like, and you see colossi, it should be a sign to you that he's not using his robotics facility for the colossi production. See, really cool to have the supply depot work in this game. So like if he has a warp prism, you know that he's not going to be using his robotics facility to build colossi, so you know that he's not going to be going too heavily into blink colossi play, because his colossi count wouldn't be that high right now. So he's most likely going to be doing a transition into charge and templar tech. That's pretty much the only other thing you can do, because tempests and void rays and carriers don't work on 2 bases. So now, knowing that this is there's like colossi play out, I'm not immediately dropping. I don't need to. These units are just in a good position for like forcing him to have defense here, and to like keep a little portion of his army over here, and also to keep some of his warp gates ready to warp in units in case I do drop over here. So it's already doing indirect damage by just being here and the Protoss seeing it. And like Protoss observers, they're gonna have observers in spots where your army's gonna be, so it's more than likely that this is gonna be scouted. So it's very hard to like let this go unscouted unless you build turrets here or scan like both areas to make sure that you kill the observer in the area, but that's not very cost efficient and only has like a 50% chance of working. So I kill the warp prism, which is good. I lose some of those units, which is bad. But I do end up going in here because when I was losing the units here, I knew that his whole army was over here. So I'm able to like go in here and kind of do some damage. And he also only had 2 colossi as well. And that's like another big tell that he's not going into blink colossi. Like I only see 2 colossi here. I did see 2 colossi before when I stimmed up the marine about a minute earlier, and like a couple centuries. So he hasn't added more colossi since. So it's a pretty good, like even though I have a 2nd starport, I'm not going to be making any Vikings with it or any more than I already have. Well, like I'm not going to be making a lot of Vikings because he's not going to be having a lot of colossi, so I don't need the anti-splash damage for that. And this drop is just being annoying, able to kill some units off. I escape with 1 medevac, which is alright. So you can either like choose to, at this point, make a lot of medevacs and make a lot of bio, or you can do Vikings, and if you make Vikings, you can do a timing attack based off of the fact that he's not going to have a lot of splash damage from teching into Templars. He's not going to have that big colossi count that you do when you see macro colossi players play. And like at this point, I've already ID'd that he is going for this kind of like transition into Storm, because he only has 2 colossi, and he hasn't added on any Colossi, and I saw the Warp Prism over here as well, so it means he's not adding on any more Colossi. It's not a priority for him. So now macro, 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 macro. Alright, so against a Colossi army, even though he's not going for Blink Colossi, he still does have 2 Colossi, so it is a Colossi based army because, oh, well, he has Templar there too, so, but it's, excuse me, there's also like Colossi, it's also a Colossi based army because he does have some Colossi for defense, so flanking is a very important thing to do. Setting up multiple positions. As we see here, I send like a small force here to poke up here. I get really lucky and catch all of these Templars. Kill 3 Templars for free. But on top of that, all I wanted to do with this was to set up a really good position. So I have small amount of units here, 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 and here, and his entire army is right there. So this is an amazing pre-engagement pre-spread for me, and like this is the kind of thing you want to do against Colossi. Just spread your army out into as many positions as possible. And now like he is forced to give up this location because of my spread, and because I have units here that can also attack from this way. And now he also doesn't have any anti-air, so these Vikings are just going to be chipping away and doing some damage as well. And because I have that really great surround and I was able to pick off some units, he's forced back, and I'm able to just take the 3rd base relatively easily, and with that is pretty much the game. So against like just making a few Colossi and then switching into Templar, by switching into Templar you're not going to have a lot of Stalkers to shoot down the Vikings, so you don't want to make enough Vikings so that you can one-hit the Colossi, but you don't want to have 0 Vikings at all and let the Colossi reign supreme. You want to like use the Vikings to kind of move the Colossi backwards and like force them away from your bio army while your bio army takes shots at the gateway units and like thins them out. So these Vikings here, it's not enough really to kill the 2 Colossi, but what they're doing is they're shooing the Colossi backwards into the natural while I'm getting a crap load of free shots off on his army, and he's not able to do anything about it. And like after his army gets thinned out, then he, like the Colossi just aren't that good alone. And so that was a really good engagement by me, and I made a really nice pre-spread. I had a good unit composition, and I was just able to take advantage of the pre-spread and force the Protoss player into an unfavorable position and therefore an unfavorable fight. So, gosh, it's already an hour. I was hoping this would be a little shorter, but oh well. So I guess this pretty much wraps up the video going over how to deal with Colossi play. I went over some Colossi all-ins, macro Colossi play, and some Colossi play that transitions into Templar tech, and the differences between all of them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and once again, if you have any comments or anything about different topics that you want me to go over, just feel free, leave a message, and I will see everyone in the next video.